Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Talk Spiritual Transformation at Speak Up and Empower. We are presenting Enlightened World Network's Divine Relationship Recovery with Deb Goldberg today and every Wednesday at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern, and we hope you'll tune in. Before Deb comes on with all of her spiritual wisdom that she's going to share with us tonight, and I will be joining in that conversation. I'm Terry Angel, for those of you who are not familiar with me. I would like to share some of the events that happen here. On Tuesdays at Speak Up and Empower, Spiritual Transformation, I come on with a show called Gratitude Happy Hour, Healing Emotionally After Trauma. And that's at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern. We also have Real Talk Spiritual Transformation Real Talk Meditate on Wednesday mornings at 10 o'clock, where I lead a guided meditation live every Wednesday. So I hope you'll join for that, as well as during the week, we share the meditations a day that Enlightened World does every day. They're at different times. But at night, you can always find them at 10 o'clock Eastern Time through Sweet Dream Restream, where we read the meditation of the day. At Enlightened World, we also have a silent meditation that we do every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, where Deb Goldberg, myself, and Ruth Anderson sit in meditation as we play some beautiful music for you to just sit silently and meditate to. We also, on this coming Sunday, will have a special first-time program there called Come to the Healing Pool. Dr. Ruth Anderson will be leading that and guiding it as she brings us to the beautiful healing pool to release and to be transformed by the energy of what we find there. And lastly, on March 22nd, we will be holding a day of transformation. And during that day, there will be presentations every half hour from different meditators, energy healers, people that are bringing spiritual wisdom. And at the end, we will be streaming on Angel Heart Radio. And we want you to tune into that one, especially at 8 o'clock on that day, as we wrap up the day and give a little synopsis of what happened and talk about our beautiful presenters of the day. And that also will be guided by Deb Goldberg, myself, and Ruth Anderson. So we got lots happening, and we're so excited to be bringing all of this and to be teaming up with Speak Up and Empower as we network together and share our beautiful light out into the world. So right now, I'm going to ask Deb to guide us into this discussion today. Deb, I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thanks, Terry. I'm so happy to be here with you, too. It is always a joy, and I think it's a great conversation that we have to help people understand a little bit more about all these different topics that we're talking about that I believe are very helpful in understanding our spiritual journey. So before we get started, I'd like to do just a little bit of intention setting to ground and connect to love. So let's just take a moment and close your eyes and breathe in through your nose slowly and deeply, and release your breath out through your mouth. And let us set our intention today for expansion of our heart space and our mind. We want to allow divine love in, your higher self, and let it hold you as we have these incredible conversations, so that we can all ascend and go higher into the divine being that we are, that we allow our hearts to constantly expand with our mind. And if you want to take some notes, that's a great idea too, to have pen and paper.
That always helps to journal and to to reflect back on what you heard.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I have journals and journals and journals of everything that I actually hear spiritually. I don't want to forget anything. And it's a great way for me to process what I'm learning or whatever I'm going through each day, what's happening inside of me. So before we get started on our awesome topic of forgiveness, I wanted to talk a little bit about a question that we had last week on Wednesday's show. And I had talked a little bit about how we are in a space of getting the reflection of the mirror in our lives, of all the relationships we have, our reflection. Everything is a reflection of our consciousness and unconsciousness that we see outside of ourselves. And I believe it was Kim that asked the question, like, how do you expand yourself so much that you are looking through the glass now in the mindset of through God's eyes, seeing everything through love and beauty and divine order, rather than seeing everything through ego eyes. And so I said, you know what, I just wanted to touch on this a little bit, because I think that we understand in the first place that since our Creator is expressing itself through us, divine love is expressing itself through us as us, that we are not in charge of our transformation. And we all get stuck in wanting to do more, get to this other place. I want to get to the next stage. And so we spend so much time, including myself, of wanting to go higher. And so that's like, okay, our spirit wants to go higher, but the ego part wants us to do it now, and we got to get it right. And it creates a lot more stress in that process of not understanding that every moment, wherever you are already divine perfection. So it is actually our Creator, who I call God, divine love, is actually having the transformation happen on divine time. So we do not have control over our transformation. Either we're going to flow with it, or we're going to resist it, or we're going to block it out. But it is really God that is controlling how much we ascend, how often we have epiphanies, or sometimes people call them holy moments, where all of a sudden your mind's expanded. So I can't push myself into seeing that beautiful glass that I see everything through God's eyes every moment of the day. I've had glimpses of it, but when God wants me to see it again, God shows it to me. So, I went through a process at one time when I was waking up and I was understanding all of this, and it was so interesting. And I got so angry with God because I said this to Jesus, I feel like a puppet. I feel like a puppet. And so, when I'm speaking like that and feeling like that, this is our ego. And it's the spiritual ego. It thinks it knows better than what God knows. It shouldn't be that way. I don't want to be a puppet. And so I really fought and resisted. I was angry because that meant I was losing a sense of myself, which is the ego. And so there was this huge resistance inside of me, and I was angry. I didn't want to be a puppet. And I had a talk with a woman one day, and I was telling her all about this. I just kind of expanded my mind, like, oh my God, what is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? And it really helped me rise above and move out of that space of resistance and anger, that my ego didn't want to release its sense of self. So I'm not saying we're puppets. We are being expressed as us, through us, by our Creator. And so we are not in charge of our transformation. Yet we try to do all kinds of things to help ourselves keep awakening and moving up further. And so that process is almost like we have to do something on the outside to keep convincing ourselves that we are moving up and going forward, because we really haven't learned how to trust the process that we are being transformed exactly when and where we need to be. So it's all kind of human nature to do all of this. So I wanted to touch on that because I thought that the question that Kim asked was so important, and I didn't think I gave it enough information. So that's what I wanted to say about that particular topic.
Well, thank you, Deb. And this is one thing that we want to do with this show is if you have questions, if there's something that we talk about and you would like it to be expanded on, we want to know that. So you can put that in the comments. Normally on our shows, there's a phone number that you can call and you can ask your question right there of Deb. So this week is a little different, but going forward, look for that phone number. And if you hear something or something hits you and you would like to have it more expanded on, or there's a question in your heart that you want answered, you can call in and talk to Deb and ask that question. And we want to honor those of you who do listen to the show and let you know that you are important. You matter to us. And as you just saw, Deb takes the time to really think about it and listen to Spirit and see what answer needs to be given to you. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Deb, for that.
No, you're very welcome. One of the things I wanted to read is, this is something that came through from God, and it says, the passion to learn and grow cannot be satisfied through the power of your will. You must allow a flower to open and bloom in its own time and at its own graceful pace. If you try to force the flower to bloom, it is only because you are unable to see its beauty and divine perfection as it is right now, in the present, while it is preparing to bloom. And I thought, wow, like that was something I needed to hear myself, because there is this force that goes on of excitement and getting caught up in wanting to move out of where you are into the next stage of growth. But it really takes us away from understanding that we are enough right now, that we are perfect right now. We're exactly where we're supposed to be. And this actually ties right into the topic tonight of forgiveness.
Yes, forgiveness. Oh, such a huge topic, but such a very important one when we're talking about relationships, right?
Mm-hmm. It is.
And our divinity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that, you know, at that time when I felt like I was being a puppet, I had then to forgive myself and you know, ask God for forgiveness for carrying on such. But of course, all there is grace. And there is no, God doesn't ask for forgiveness. God is not expecting that from you. But as a human, we have to do this because it helps us feel better. It helps us feel better because divine love always has grace for everything. For you, every moment, no matter what you're thinking, doing, believing. So forgiveness, and I've had so many opportunities for forgiveness that I didn't realize needed to happen from my awakening. And not forgiving really holds yourself hostage.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, Deb, when you were mentioning that God doesn't expect forgiveness. You know, God doesn't judge. It's not something that happens. It's all in our ego state where we see God as that judge, that executioner, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But forgiveness is not about anybody or anything else other than ourselves. And it took me a while to come to that, Deb. It really took years for me to understand that, because I would hold a grudge, or I would hold all these emotions inside about someone that had done something, and I wanted to hold on to that anger. I wanted to hold on to not forgiving them.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in my twisted mind, I thought that was somehow hurting that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the forgiveness is what's inside. It's not about anybody that you perceive has done anything to you. It's not about perceiving that God has done something. It's all about yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is totally, everything is about you. Everything is about you. That is so right, Terry. It's almost like holding on to things that have hurt you and not forgiving is toxic. So we, the forgiveness comes in stages. And, I can go back to probably 2 months after I was awoke by Jesus. And this was a major, major forgiveness issue for me. I remember I was driving to the airport. I had a pretty long drive, and I was having a wonderful, joyful time, and I was talking with God and Jesus the whole way. And I started to have a thought about my children and my grandchildren. And it was conflict that actually awakened me to start digging inside myself and wondering why I was having pain. So this thought came up about, gosh, if I didn't see my grandchildren, I would be really, really hurt. Mm-hmm. If they were being held back. And all of a sudden, things started to percolate inside of me. And one of the things that came up was the thought about my mom, because I had a terrible conflictual relationship with my mom growing up, and it was from being sexually abused, and I didn't feel like I was protected. Or believed. So for 14 years, I didn't talk to my mom. And when I had the thought of maybe my children withholding my grandchildren, I thought, oh my God, this is what I did to my own mother. And I thought, that it was justified and because of what happened. But what I felt at that moment was, I don't care what anybody did. It's cruel. I was being cruel to my mother, and it doesn't matter what she did. And this is how we start to expand our hearts and our minds, to start really looking at, is this a person that I want to be? It doesn't matter who somebody else is. What feels right to me? And it really started to make me understand that I had forgiven my mom, but I really kept her at a distance. Mm-hmm. It was superficial. I was still withholding. So that was like the beginning of a forgiveness, these stages that happen. And wait, this was an amazing trip to the airport, I'll have to tell you. And then another part happened is, as I'm talking to God, I hear a voice chime in. And it's the person who abused me, right? So this whole trip was really about me while I'm driving, understanding what I have been doing for 40 some odd years. I mean, I was probably 57 at the time. And I thought, well, oh my gosh, here's this voice. And I know this voice, and it's saying, I'm sorry. I am sorry that I did this to you. You did not deserve this. And I am very, very sorry. But I was horrified. I was horrified to hear this voice. And at the moment, so it was really interesting watching the two different things of what was happening within me with my mother and then what was happening with my stepfather. And I thought, you know, God was talking to me about this. I'm like, well, how does somebody else's voice just come in? I didn't invite them in, right? And God's all about healing. God's all about you healing yourself. Yes. And that he wanted me to do this. He wanted me to, after holding on to something for 40 some odd years, that it was time to let go of it. And so he just got quiet. Mm-hmm. And I was still really horrified about that. I'm hearing some other voice that I didn't really want to hear. So what happened as I kept driving and God gave me some space to think, I really started to understand that, oh gosh, that happened over 40 some odd years ago, and I'm still blaming. And I'm still blaming, and I'm still guarded, and I'm still withholding love, and I'm doing all of these things, acting as if I'm still a victim of something that happened so long ago, and it's because I didn't heal it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And Deb, how many people are out there in the same situation?
Mm-hmm.
I can really resonate because I had the same experience. I wasn't driving in my car, but yeah, there were childhood things that happened, and I could not bring myself to that place of forgiveness until, through the guidance of the angels and my spirit guides, I was shown that it wasn't about them, that I had to let it go. I had to be the one to say, I forgive, because I don't want to hold this heaviness inside any longer. And I know there are so many people that think that same thought, that I can't forgive this person. I can't forgive this situation, especially something as horrid as childhood sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. I went through it. You went through it. It's something that you just cringe when you even have a thought about it. So to think about forgiving, it's like, oh no, I am not going to forgive that person. Mm-hmm. And that was my mindset until I was shown it is not about that person. Right. This has nothing to do with them. And so, yeah, it's something we do for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And it does free us. Mm-hmm. I experienced that freedom of letting go of that emotion, that I call it the gunk that was sitting there inside of me from that experience. Mm-hmm. So I'm so glad that you brought this out and that we can talk about this, because I've talked to so many people that are still in that place of, no, I can't forgive. Mm-hmm. But can't, as I learned, means I choose not to.
Yeah.
It's all about making that decision and that choice, isn't it, Deb?
It totally is. It totally is. There's a willingness of saying, well, how is this serving me to hang on to this blame? And how does it serve me to stay in a victim stance? And so I just brought up sexual abuse, but I will tell you that forgiveness goes across the board. There are so many things that we need to forgive others for that hurt us that may not have anything to do with abuse. It's just that something happened that hurt our heart. When somebody didn't fulfill our expectations, when somebody was mean to us, When somebody dies and we're not ready for them to go, that the forgiveness is, what I realized is, okay, I need to forgive these people that hurt me, but I need to forgive myself because I'm the one holding me hostage for over 40 some odd years, really, in my life. Mm-hmm. I came upon in one of my books and just this little paragraph, and I thought it'd be interesting to hear. All of the things I didn't heal within myself, either because I was stubborn and thought I was right, or because I simply wouldn't let anyone help me, affected my relationships with my children and our family. Unfortunately, it is also affected, then you affect other people, so you affect and then their relationships going forward with others. We're not isolated in what we do. The inability to let go and forgive is toxic to everyone and everything. Yet, as all of this poison is being spread around, we can't see it because our ego's overwhelming need to be right, to be holier than thou, and to be justified keeps it in place. This then is the inevitable outcome when we self-abandon and allow the ego to control us. So when we are not forgiving others and ourselves, we are at the mercy of our ego. And the ego is only trying to protect you, not understanding anything else. It doesn't have the expansiveness of consciousness. So you are staying locked in your own prison in your mind, keeping you from being everything that you are, divine, your divine perfection. And that keeps you from seeing others because you project yourself onto other people. They're your mirror. So if you can't see your own divine perfection, you're not going to see others, and whether they hurt you or not. So these are all really growing stages as part of the spiritual path. And most of the really forgiveness I had to do was of my own self. I was hurting me. That might have happened way back then, but I'm hurting me. So, letting go, as I said, you can't force yourself to forgive. If you're still in a place of, I'm not ready, it's okay. But you can start contemplating, what would it be like to forgive? What is it giving me to hold on to this blame, to hold on to bitterness? Where can I do some acceptance and allowing? And that is probably the biggest part of not letting go and forgiving is we are, and this is what happened to me. I was so busy trying to understand why things happened. Why did people do what they did? Why did it happen to me? Instead of just accepting the fact that it did. And I can't change it. And you can heal from it. You can let it go. It is an experience. It is not who you are. So forgiving is freeing. And it is an expansion of yourself saying, okay, I had this experience. I didn't like it. I don't think it's right, but I can't change it. And so when you start to accept and allow, then you can really get centered into starting to contemplate, can I let go of it? Can I work on forgiveness? Even if it starts with very superficial forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. Deb, I like to play a game called What If? What if I didn't have this hole in my heart? What if I didn't have this pain that hurts so bad when I think about that situation or that person? And then what if and feel it. Feel what it would feel like if that wasn't there, if the pain wasn't there, if the your light was dimmed in that certain place. And then go to that place that feels better. What if it feels better? You know, what's the best that could happen if you let go and go to that good feeling place? I love Abraham, the channelings of Abraham, where Abraham says, reach for that better feeling thought. So when you think about your situation or think about the person that you perceive has done something, whatever that something may be, go to that better feeling thought of, I forgive because I want to feel better. And feel the better feeling inside of you. We all can do this. We all can let go. It's not something that we have to live with forever. We make choices. And so choose a better feeling inside of you. That's what I do every day. If I have something, I always take inventory in the daytime and say, okay, how am I feeling right now about, a certain situation, a person in my life, whatever it may be, and choosing to have a better feeling thought. And that feeling inside just happens because you're turning away. Abraham calls it pivoting. You're turning away from the sadness or the anger or whatever that brings up for you. So we all can do that. We all can let go. We have that power inside of us. And it's a matter of, what do you want to have in your life right now? Do you want all of that yuck, or do you want to put a smile on your face? It's up to you. It's our choice. And you mentioned earlier, about being a puppet. We have free will to choose how we're living this life. And I choose joy. I choose peace. I choose happiness. So every day you can tell yourself that, if that's your choice, that's what you want to live in. And it all comes down to letting go of those things that they're not serving us. They're not for our best and highest good, are they, Deb?
Yeah, they're not. But I do go back to the place where you can't force yourself to do it. It's about moving into a stage of contemplating, thinking about, can I do this? Do I want to do this? Why don't I want to do it? Why can't I do it? And, I couldn't move through those stages without God and Jesus, because they held me. Even here's me driving the car and I'm getting this lesson, this incredible lesson on forgiveness, and knowing that I am being held and in such unconditional love and grace as I was processing what was going on inside of me. And so sometimes you just also have to bring that grace that you're given into yourself when you have moments where you want to forgive, but there's a part of you that just wants to keep holding on. And so those are moments where you just bring more love to yourself and grace until you can get past those moments. And having this intimate relationship and conversations with your Creator allows you. Didn't know how to let go. I didn't know how to forgive. And it wasn't until I was provoked by God to look at some of these things that were creating unhappiness for me that I was doing to myself now. I couldn't blame anybody else. So I think that what happens is as you even start to forgive superficially, then you start moving into another stage of, okay, I'm forgiving, I'm letting go some more. And maybe you're a little guarded still, you're still protecting yourself against somebody. And then eventually you let go some more. So it is a process. Sometimes we get into such terrible situations where you have to let go right away because there's no other You can't fight it. You can't resist it. You have to accept and allow what is happening in the moment. So knowing that you are guided in everything that you have to do, things that seem so hard emotionally and on your heart, or that you're coming from a place of more of unconsciousness, of ego thought versus an expansion of your mind and your heart and what you're actually capable of doing. I just went and visited a place called Glencairn in Pennsylvania, and they had a whole exhibit about Egypt and how they prepared people for death. And one of the things is they would take your heart and put it on a scale, and the other side was a feather. And has your heart become as light as a feather? And it really stood out to me because I thought, wow, that really kind of describes some of the expansion and ascension processes, that your heart just keeps getting lighter and lighter, more joyful. It doesn't mean that you don't experience grief or other feelings, but your heart just gets more and more lighter and expansive, filled with happiness most of the time. And I thought, what a great description, don't you think?
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And what an image to hold in your mind's eye, to see that scale and that feather in the heart. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So imagine what your relationships could be like if you didn't have to guard yourself or blame somebody else and took responsibility for your own feelings and do that with divine love. Imagine how light you would feel. Imagine what your relationships would turn into if you let go and forgive people for not being who you thought or expected them to be, or for yourself for not being who you think you should have been or done or said or whatever you have done to yourself. There is absolute grace. Divine love is absolute grace, and that's part of us learning as we expand our heart, is to have it for ourselves as much as we can in this human experience and for others. But we always start with us. It all starts with us and it ends with us.
Yeah. Wow. So forgiveness really is all about us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just like you said when we started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not about anybody else. You are freeing yourself. You are freeing yourself and getting the ball and the chain off of your body, off of your mind, off of everything that restricts you from being your best self, of being open-hearted.
Yeah. Instead of
being closed-hearted because we're in protection mode, which I totally understand. I've lived it for so long. Mm-hmm. This is why we have a relationship with the Creator, with God, because God made you. God is you. There's nothing about you that God does not know. God is you and wants you to be happy. That is complete happiness. That is all that is asked of you. Every single day, I ask, what is in my highest good? It is to be happy. Just be happy, Deb, right? That is your state of being, is joy. Live in it. See the world as I've taught you what it is, and not what your senses keep telling you, which is an evolution of us. Now, I thought this would be a perfect time for us to do Ho'oponopono, Terry, and anybody that's listening to use this as that together, as people are listening to our discussion, that they have the chance to call in God, Jesus, the angels, Buddha, the universe, whatever you call divine love, and take this moment to think about who is it, whether it's yourself, it could be both, or somebody else that is on your heart that you're still harboring feelings about. And let's try to start the process of forgiveness.
Yeah. And can I just mention something, Deb? I've led this Ho'oponopono method for quite a while, for years. And I've come across some people that there's 4 statements. And when they say the statements, they're like, I can't say that, please forgive me, or I can't say I love you. Keep in mind this whole discussion that we have held here today. This is not about anybody else but you. It's about you. So you're not saying these words to anybody else. You're saying these statements, these words to yourself, to the universe, so that it goes out in that way to pull all of that energy out of you. And that's the whole power of Ho'oponopono. This is an ancient prayer that came from Hawaii. And it really is powerful. I have seen it work miracles in my own life and in the life of people that I've helped through this beautiful tool, which is what we're giving you right now, is a tool. There's 4 statements that you use. And with each statement, feel the energy of it. Feel into it for yourself. Forget that there's even anybody else in the world. You're doing this for you. And those 4 statements are, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And when you think of it as you're doing this for you, it will make a difference.
It is so beautiful. What you're doing is thanking somebody else for showing you you.
Yeah.
By your reaction to what you've experienced, you are expressing, thank you, I love you for showing me. What is going on inside of me that needs to be cleared? So take a moment and actually take that in. And whether it's towards yourself, to somebody else, it's all for you. The prayer is for yourself, of releasing. And for those of you that are more inclined to ask God or Jesus, what happened is when I was going through this process, and I've used Ho'oponopono over the years many times, and it's wonderful. But when I was going through this and I was in conversation with God, this is what I said is, God, I understand now from what you have been talking with me about my role in creating pain for myself. So thank you, God, for showing this to me. And please forgive me. Please forgive myself. I am forgiving myself. I'm forgiving myself for keeping all of this, keeping myself hostage, keeping myself a victim when that happened so long ago. And thank you for now I can forgive the person that I have been blaming. So I went through all the process of saying to God, this is why I am angry at so-and-so. This is what they did. This is how it hurt me. This is how it affected my whole life. And then I went through and I said, okay, God, now I'm going to take responsibility and say, what holding on to all of this did and how I now affected my life and other people's lives by holding on to blame and victimhood. And it was very prayerful, and it was very loving. So whatever way works for you, this is your journey, and you can't do it wrong. It is what feels good to you. So you are perfect. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you other than what you hold on to in your faulty belief system. And this whole spiritual awakening is understanding what those beliefs are and releasing them. And forgiveness is the way that we do that. Part of it. I'm so grateful to be here with you and to share these magic moments that I have had with divine love. And to encourage you to connect within to the most amazing love that you would ever experience, and know that it is your co-partner for life, that you're not doing this alone, and it has all the wisdom within you to help you heal anything that needs to be healed, and to transform you as you keep going along.
How beautiful. How beautiful. And, none of us have to go through anything alone. There are resources. And if you liked what you saw today on this show, if you know someone that could benefit from these words today, share this out with them. Tell them they need to sit and listen to these words, because they are healing. The words are healing words. And Deb, I am so grateful to have you in my life, and so grateful for this together, divine relation. And so I want people to get to know you more. How do they reach you if they have questions or want you to work with them in their life, to work on relationships or any other issues that come up for them? How do they do that?
Well, you can reach me at my website, which is debbiengoldberg.com, and you can send an email that way. You can also go on Facebook and find me at Deb Goldberg or Debbie N. Goldberg LLC, and you can reach out to me through Facebook Messenger or through Enlightened World Network. Any of those ways you can get in touch with me. And now also on Speak Up and Empower on Real Talk.
Absolutely.
Spiritual transformation. So there's several ways, and I'd love to hear from you. And please leave any comments, and we will get back to you with any questions. And have a blessed day.
Have a blessed day, and remember to come back next week on Wednesday at 5 o'clock as Deb brings us more divine relationship recovery. Thank you for joining us. We love you and bless you. Bye now.